because connection, collaboration, and transparency are central to our mission.
Hi everyone, on behalf of the GFLI, I'm more than thrilled to announce that we're going to do a collaboration with the OECD on a webinar and a seminar here live at Paris. But before we go to a deep dive on what we're going to do there, I'm happy to introduce to you Koen de Koning from the OECD. Koen, hi Arjen, nice to meet you again here in Paris.
Welcome at the OECD.
Thank you so much. Could you explain a little bit more about yourself and what you're doing at kind of work at the OECD here?
Sure. So my name is Koen de Koning. I'm an economist here in the OECD in the Trade and Agriculture Directorate. And the OECD is a group of countries, 38 countries that get together to learn from each other best practices on how to improve their policies. And we, as analysts, we support them with analysis and advice on that.
Amazing. It sounds like a difficult job with all those different kind of countries. How do you manage that?
Well, the way we work is really based on dialogue among our member states. And so, for example, on agriculture, there is a committee for agriculture. So these are senior people from the ministries of agriculture. They would meet twice a year. And then there's also more frequent meetings of our working party on agricultural policies and markets, which meets 3 times a year, for example, to discuss our research and to also share experiences with each other to improve their policies.
Amazing, good work. I think that we already met in a couple of meetings where you kind of described about the work you've been doing with reports and standards and all those different kind of things. Looking into that, how do you see collaboration between OECD and GFLI? Because I can imagine from our perspective at least, we are happy to share our thoughts with your policymakers, but how do you see it the other way around?
Yeah, so indeed, we're working on this question of how do you measure environmental footprints, carbon footprints, for example, of agri-food products throughout the supply chain. And animal feed is, of course, a really important element in that because it's an input for a lot of the food supply chain, but itself, it comes from agricultural production. So if you get that element wrong, everything else is wrong as well. So that's why animal feed for us is a really important part of the issue. And within that, the reason that we've enjoyed collaborating with GFLI over the years is that this is an industry initiative where the industry got together to reduce the fragmentation of methods and data. And so we think that is a really important thing to do. So that's why we've been very happy to work with you and GFLI on this.
Well, that's good to hear. I think that from our perspective as well, I think we really love the work you've been doing. It's good for us that we kind of were able to enlarge our network, also talking to different kind of people. Have you some kind of knowledge about other initiatives from sectors that we could also collaborate even more with? Or do you see GFLI really as a one-of-a-kind sector initiative which is working on these topics?
So I think there's other sectors that face similar issues as the feed industry does. I don't think there's other sectors that have taken that step that the feed sector has of creating a joint initiative to reduce that fragmentation. I think that's something relatively rare. And I think other sectors could probably learn from that model on how to reduce that fragmentation in their industries as well.
Could you as OECD play some kind of role in enlarging our network together with maybe other sectors? I know we've been talking about fertilizers as well. How do you see that related to our seminar? Could we ask those people to join, or what is your view on it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I think is really important in the work that we're doing here because there are so many different initiatives, but they all need to work together because in the end, there's just one agri-food sector and the food supply chain with all kinds of different elements in there. So it's really important that all those different elements are in contact with each other and learn from each other so that we get something that is aligned across the supply chain. And so a lot of the work that we've been doing is actually putting people in touch with each other that normally wouldn't be talking to each other. And so, yes, we're very happy, of course, to facilitate those conversations. Yeah.
Amazing. Lovely to hear that. I think that we discussed also a bit of the audience that will join our seminar. I think we're talking about the APM. Maybe you can explain a bit more about that?
Yeah, exactly. So I mentioned earlier that we have several meetings with our member states. And so the APM is sort of the beating heart of a lot of the work we do on agriculture. So it's Agricultural Policies and Markets Working Party. So these are delegates from ministries of agriculture who would meet 3 times a year to discuss the analysis we're doing and also to discuss with each other the different policy issues on agriculture and food.
So it's quite special that we as GFLI could join one of these meetings because they're only meeting 3 times a year.
Exactly, yeah, that's right.
Oh, wow. What would be the biggest takeaway you would suggest from our side that they would take into account at least?
Well, what is important for me here is I think we have a rare opportunity to connect the policy world with industry. And I think it's really important for policymakers to hear from the feed industry what the feed industry is already doing to reduce that fragmentation. but also to hear about how other people have been using GFLI data, GFLI methods in other tools, for example, in farm level calculation tools.
So you could say that we could add value to show best cases, best practices.
Yes, I think it's important for policymakers to understand that this is not something theoretical.
Yep.
It is something that is already happening. It is something that is not necessarily, it is something that the sector actually supports and is actively driving, because they understand the importance of having better metrics and of reducing that fragmentation in methods and data, which is what GFLI, I think, is all about.
Wow, I couldn't agree more, to be honest, because we've been working in this place for over 5 years now, and we definitely see that. You can talk about harmonization or alignment, but in the end, I think that a global way of working is the best for everybody. At least we're comparing apples to apples, and not to pears in a sense. So, I think that this would be very much aligned with your work as well. What do you suggest from your side that our takeaway should be from the meeting?
Well, one of the things that we've been discussing in the way that we design this seminar is indeed we want this to be an exchange between the worlds of policy and the feed industry. I think it would be very helpful for people in the feed industry to see that also on the policy side, there is a growing interest in this question of how do you measure environmental impacts. And we see in a lot of our member states that people are developing, for example, public farm level calculation tools. They want to help their farmers to calculate carbon footprints and other kinds of environmental impacts. And then if you want to have the full picture, you need good animal feed data. And so from my point of view, it's very important that we bring those pieces of the puzzle together, that the feed data that goes into those tools is based on the best possible methods and data we have.
Kuno, you said about standardization, alignment, global thoughts. I think what we see within GFLI is it hard for us to get the data we need, because there are like a lot of farmers, a lot of small companies that have data but aren't able to provide them to us. Getting here at the OECD and meeting some interesting people like from SBTI and others, I think that as far as I'm talking on behalf of GFLI, I'm looking forward to get more understanding on how we could speed this process and make it faster, more easy, lower the barrier to being able to get more data in, service more people. Have you got any vision about that?
I think it's a really important question, not just on the feed industry side, but across the supply chain. And it's something that we're trying to facilitate ourselves. And I think for me, the first step is really to bring people together and to build that network. And as you know, we've been organizing our own webinars. We've been organizing in-person events here in Paris. So part of the reason that we're doing that is because things are so much easier if you bring people in the same room, if people get to know each other, if they have a better understanding of what everybody else is working on, who has which data needs, and if you start building that trust. And then I think a lot of the other conversations will become easier once we've built that trust and that network in the first place.
So when we look to the 23rd of September, we go here at the OECD and do the seminar. Would you suggest that we have a successful seminar as we have more people meeting each other, knowing the needs for their projects, showing best cases? Is that something that we say as the best takeaway for both of us?
I think so. I think it would be successful on my side if we can see that the policy world now has a better understanding of what the feed industry is already doing and the importance of having trusted methods, trusted data on animal feed, and also of knowing what is already available that they could use themselves in other initiatives. And if on the other hand, we also see that the feed industry now has a better understanding of the kinds of considerations and constraints and needs of the policy world. I think bringing those two communities in touch with each other, exchanging those experiences, I think that would be a successful outcome.
Well, thank you so much. Would there something else you would like to address for the 23rd, or is it just we're now
just really looking forward to those conversations?
Amazing.
Great.
Just on practical side, I think that we have the in-person meeting, and also I think it's Zoom, right?
Zoom link.
There's going to be a Zoom as well. So more than happy to join. And thanks so much, Koen.
Thanks, Harry.
Looking forward to the meeting and the seminar.
Yeah, me too. All right, thanks.